Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Hour. My name is Miguel Sanchez, your host, and I work with entrepreneurs and investors, teaching them how to do better with monetization and innovation. And today, my show, I'm going to talk about the power of podcasting because from my last week to this week, how many people have reached out to me since I started saying I'm going to podcast every day, and that show that I was talking about, creating a podcast, was definitely one of my most popular, most engaging, back and forth shows. So now it's been a holiday weekend, so that could have something to do with it. I don't know, but the amount of people that have reached out to me during this weekend saying, "All right, you motivated me. I'm going to make a podcast." You can see it in my comments on Instagram. You can see it in my comments, in my DMs, my text messages. You can't see, but a lot of people have been like, "All right, you know what? This is the push I needed. Thank you." So including my father. I went to my father's house. I went to my parents' house this weekend. And he was like, "I'm going to make a podcast." And I was like, "Oh, now, all right, I got you." So basically, he started asking me questions, and many people have been asking me questions this weekend about how can they start, right? So I spoke a lot about the overall motivation of it all, that you should be doing it. But today I'm going to start talking about how I would advise someone like my father, right? And my father, who's 60 plus, about to retire. He's lived a great life, doing many different things. He has a lot of different skill sets, and you will meet him. I'm gonna have a podcast with him, maybe when we're in the Dominican Republic finishing the property that we're working on. But how can he create a podcast that benefits him going forward, right? So with him, we started having a little bit of a conversation around what could he do, right? And many different people I'm having that same conversation with. So I kind of wanted to have it publicly with you guys. So if anyone is thinking about, creating a podcast, they start to think in these ways, right? And I'm going to tell you what I did, what I'm doing, how I started. So with me, when I first started podcasting, I really had no true path towards anything other than practicing. I knew that practice makes perfect with all of this stuff. And by just going for it and starting to understand the way, the process, how it all works, I figured eventually I would figure it out. And I'm still figuring it out. That's the big thing that I think people look at people like Joe Rogan and stuff like that and think, if you're not that polished, that planned out, don't start. But you got to remember, Joe Rogan's been over 10 years. He's done the podcast. I'm sure in the beginning, he just was turning it on the camera, the video, or the audio, and just talking for hours. And he believed in his idea, and he worked out for him. So for us, for me, I'm thinking the same way. I know I've done a lot of things. I've had a lot of experiences with creating ideas for many different people for every type of industry. There has to be a way that the stuff that's in my brain can help people. So right now, I'm just talking about things that I wish I would have known, right? Things that would have saved me a lot of time, right? And money. And what I see and what I want to do is I want to start to see what kind of, what up? I want to see what kind of feedback I get as I create. So far by far, every time I do it, the podcast stuff gets the most engagement on the show. After the show, I get calls. I literally this weekend. It was this weekend. I got reached out to by somebody at one of the biggest companies in the world. One of the higher up people of color in one of the biggest companies of the world. I believe it was because of the podcast, because I've been doing everything else the whole time, right? But as soon as I put the podcast up again, I get that kind of reach out. So I'm chalking it up to, all right, I need to really double down on this, because literally the amount of people that reached out to me this weekend is insane. It's insane. And I don't mean like people like that from companies like that. I mean like just friends that we haven't spoken in a while. That they were like, yo, what you talking about there? Yeah, you're right. So let's figure it out. With me, I'm getting to the point where I don't really have a lot of time no more. So I told one of my friends like, look, I'm willing to help, but I'm getting to the point where I might not be able to help like I used to be able to. But like I'm trying to understand the questions that people are asking me so I can create content around them. So I'm gonna start talking about the questions that I've been getting, right? So one of the first questions is, how do I monetize the podcast, right? So I said it in the last video or the video before that. You get a CPM based on you reading an ad for Anchor, right? So when you sign up to Anchor, you can read an ad for Anchor and they'll give you $15 per 1,000 views. The thing though is you can't only rely on that Anchor ad, because that means you got to get. So I had another friend who reached out who's in the music industry, and he said, what you said about Anchor was crazy because I did 250,000 streams on music and I made $16. And I did the math really quick and I was like, wow, you would have made $3,750 if you had that many streams of a podcast. And I had been telling him, make a podcast around your music. And I've been telling anybody in music that I know. And then one of my other music people called me this weekend too, actually this morning, and was like, man, all right, you got me. All right, I'm going to do it. Let's figure it out. So again, like him, I told him, look, we'll see. We'll see if I got time. Hopefully I got time to help you. But the key here is the information will be here. I'll give the information out. Hopefully I can help people. But my time is getting really crazy right now. It really is. So where to start though is monetization shouldn't only be through ads. You need to figure out other routes of monetization. So when I say that, what I mean is things have to make you money that are not only the ads. So how do you do that? You have to start thinking outside of the podcast. How can you make money? So in my case, I have mass ideation, right? So that's kind of like my overall. I always can figure out how to monetize through that, right? So in one way, I had a person reach out to that I never met before that said, I love your podcast. I'm trying to do podcasts for CEOs. Are you willing to partner with me on that? Sure. I'm going to make money doing what I know how to do. No problem. So already mass ideation, that's mass ideation, right? It's not because I'm making a podcast that I got that. It's because all the stuff I'm talking about, the quality of the image, the video, the audio, everything, that's a mass ideation, our research and development that I've been spending a few years through my company building, and it allows me now to sell that as a service to someone else that I wasn't even really wanting to do that. But if, hey, you can bring me clients and I make money by helping CEOs make a podcast, why not? All right. Media chop up. Descript is a godsend, man. I couldn't imagine editing videos and audio without it. Such a huge time saver, especially for noobs. I told you. Descript. I'm telling you, I would not. Now I'm putting out a podcast every single day. Every day my podcast come up at 6 o'clock in the morning because of Descript. I couldn't do that without Descript. It's like done. But I do also have an archive of hour-long shows because I've been doing shows since the pandemic. So in a way, I do have that. But if you don't have that, you could literally just turn on Descript, talk into the mic in Descript, and it transcribes your words. And then you could chop out. It'll chop out the words that are like the yeah, or when you say like when you say two things back to back, it'll chop one out. It'll take the pauses that are super long. So if you have a pause over 3 seconds, it'll eliminate that or bring it down to 1 second. It'll go through, you can search by words. So a lot of times when I say words like Meta Bronx, the AI spells that wrong. So I can go in, change Meta Bronx, right, spell it right, and then use that as closed caption for YouTube and other places. I can make that an article on my blog eventually once I make that. So I'm glad it helped you. Filler words, yes, the filler words. So monetization can come in many different ways. It doesn't only have to come from the ads. I spoke about last time affiliate links. Affiliate links is one of the easiest ways to create a revenue stream. Of course, the more views you get, the more money you make. But if you catch the right affiliate link, like so on my description, the reason why you see a description on every show is because I want people, might be the first time you ever see me on this one thing that you see. When you get there, I want you to be able to know I'm on all these platforms. I want you to understand everything I do. And a lot of those links are affiliate links. And I'm seeing results already from those affiliate links. I'm seeing people sign up to the stock thing that I do, and I get $10, they get $10. I'm seeing people sign up to Cash App, to buy things on Amazon, buy the equipment I'm using, and then I get percentage. I get $10 here, $25 there, $8 here. That adds up. So that's one revenue stream, right? And that's podcast without ads. I'm talking about how can you make revenue streams around the podcast. You got affiliate links. So even though you're talking, the beauty of when you set that Anchor podcast up, there's a description. On that description, you can make links. So what I'm doing on my links is, because most of these are visual shows too, I'm linking to the visual show. If you want to watch the show, go watch it on YouTube or Facebook. If you want to listen on on YouTube and Facebook, I'm linking to the podcast. So I'm bringing traffic all around, but at the same time, I got the affiliate links under. Another thing you could do, of course, is your own sponsorships, right? You can talk to people that are in the industry, or you could do kind of what I'm doing. I'm not really saying this podcast is brought to you by Mass Ideation, but in a way it is. Like all this equipment, Mass Ideation paid for it. All the research and development, Mass Ideation paid for it. All these little tools that I use, Mass Ideation pays for it. So Mass Ideation is sponsoring this podcast. I just don't say that, and maybe I should. I don't know. But that is the truth of it. And this weekend, you're going to keep hearing this weekend. This weekend, another person was like, I love what you're doing with the show. I think I can get CEOs to be on your show. And we have a way you can make money off of it. It's like, sign me up. Interviewing CEOs, no problem. Making money, no problem. So this is all coming from consistency too. So when I talk about the different ways of creating revenue, it doesn't get there until you have the consistency. Because if you're making one a month, nobody's gonna reach out. It takes a while before people care. So with my dad, I'll give you the example of my dad. My dad, he does this thing where he fixes people's teeth. Like if you have a missing tooth, he'll fix it. And he's been doing that since I was born, right? But it's not. He's also a carpenter, so it's kind of like a side hustle for him. But he came up with this idea that I've been working with him on to do some type of tech-enabled way of helping people with that. So I've been working with him on it. So when I saw him this weekend, he said, I want to make a podcast around helping people make their teeth look better. And I was like, okay. And then he gave me the one episode about when you lose a tooth, how it can make your teeth move and all these different things. So I was like, all right, that is a good one episode. But to make a podcast, you got to be able to create a lot of episodes. So the way I look at it is, if you're going to create a podcast, you got to think, what topic can I talk about 50 times a year at minimum? At minimum. That's once a week for a year and taking 2 weeks off. Right? It's really hard to make one show and think you're going to get viewers. Look at me. I've been doing this the whole pandemic, which many people were home. And just now, people are really starting to realize I'm doing this. Because now I'm in their face every day. It's almost hard not to know I'm doing something. Because every day you see I post something about what I'm talking about. I'm posting a new show. Now I'm posting a podcast literally every day. So eventually it's like, what you got to understand is people don't care. It's true. People don't care. What happens is you reach their eye enough times, then they'll start to be like, what's this about? They still don't care. They listen. You know what? That's interesting to me. Or not. More times than not, it's going to be not. They're not interested. Even your own family members, they're not interested in what you're interested in. So I tell people all the time, I know my content is not mainstream. Like, I'm not talking about things that most of the population cares about. Entrepreneurs is a small percentage of the population. You know, that's why there's like more workers than bosses, because less people want to do that, right? So I understand that. But I also know it will benefit me around the podcast to interview CEOs, to talk to people who are looking to create things, because they could hire me to create them, or I could connect them and make money in other ways, right? So for me, it makes sense for me. If the ads end up making money on top of it, that's gravy, that's cool. I'll be ecstatic, and I know it will happen eventually, but it's not the main way I'm looking at monetizing this. So like for my dad's scenario, I told him, look, you have to draw people in that care about their teeth, right? Because not everybody's going to have a hole in their tooth. I mean, a missing tooth, right? And you can't really, I don't know, maybe there's a way. We're thinking it out, though. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out with him. You can't make 50 episodes about a missing tooth. People who are missing teeth, right? So part of what I've been telling him is, all right, now we got to study. We got to see. This is what you should do. We got to see what other people in that same industry are creating around podcasts. So now he has to research. Are there dentist podcasts? Are there something about teeth? Whatever it is, he has to do that research. I started doing the research a little bit, but I'm doing the research for me, which is entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, innovation, monetization. I'm trying to see what other people are doing and seeing where my lane could be, right? But what you got to understand about podcasting, that is, and content creation in general, even not just podcasting, this video stuff too, is nobody's you. Nobody's you. So you could literally talk about the same thing another person is talking about. But if people like you and know you, they're going to rock with you. So I wouldn't even look at it as, oh, there's something there, so I'm not going to do that. It's more about what do you want? What are you going to enjoy doing? So this weekend, I really felt like, wow, it's getting there. I really feel like I'm helping people, right? So in the beginning, it was like, I wanted to create this because I was like, man, I need to really tell people what I know about what's about to happen with this tech thing, right? And I want them to start understanding that I don't think you're going to have an option but to be an entrepreneur. Of course, you can have your job, but you're going to have side hustles. You're going to have to, right? So I wanted to start helping people understand that and start to test those. And I'm seeing it. Like, I'm getting the messages. I'm getting the, yeah, exactly. Media chopper. I think that's Ricky. That's you, right? I always say, for every Pepsi, there's a Coca-Cola. For every Uber, there's a Lyft. For every company, there's another company that may not be the number one, but they're riding that wave and they're doing really well. I gotta stop cursing now because I'm doing a podcast too. And I'm trying to have advertisers. So what I say is the difference of a company versus a person is even more vast. You could literally do the same exact service, same everything as someone else. People are gonna buy who they like, though. They may not like you better than the other person, or the other person better than you. So just put yourself out there. They may like you. You might be training people on the same exact thing as someone else, the same way someone else is, but they just like your style more. They like your voice more. They like your look more. It could be all three, one of the three, whatever. Don't make it either or. They're doing it, so I'm not. It's more about what's best for you and what's a way that you're going to be able to be consistent. Because if you can't, I'll tell you right now, if you can't create a podcast that you feel like you can get to 50 episodes, I probably wouldn't even start, because you got to put your mind in that aspect. Like when I started doing YouTube, I'm being trained by one of the top YouTube guys. I'm in his course, and he's like, the algorithm for YouTube doesn't even pick you up until you're like 40 videos in. So what that means is YouTube, of course, they're going to try to be like, look, I don't want to just have the people who are like dipping their toe in and not really real about doing this. So we're not even going to care about these people until they get here. Podcasting doesn't have that yet, right? At least not to my knowledge, because there's not that many. Right now, it's probably 1% people podcasting as opposed to the amount of people making YouTube and TikToks and all that. Podcasting it has its own thing. But what I've seen in the way people are reaching out to me already, there's something about podcasting, and it might just be my audience, but people are really interested in it. I don't know what it is, but I know I love it. I listen to podcasts all the time. So I based my interest on doing it based on me, knowing I like to learn through audio because of audiobooks. And now with podcasting, I really enjoy that method of getting information. So maybe it's not just me, because anytime I talk about podcasts or I create anything around podcasts, the messages I get is pretty crazy. So I think it's a huge opportunity if you could just tell yourself, okay, what could I talk about 50 times this year? And even with me, right? Like I tell you, I get on every day and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. Today, I didn't really know, but I was like, I got to talk about all this interaction and feedback I'm getting from podcasts. And I'm trying to understand from the community, what is it? And I'm asking literally anybody watching right now, what makes podcasting so interesting to you, so I can understand more, because maybe I angle a lot more towards helping people with podcasts. I don't know. Because many of the other things I talk about, I'm not sure if it's just going over people's heads and podcasts make sense. I don't know. But it's a lot of, like literally a lot of feedback that I don't get from other shows where I'm talking about many other things. So it's just interesting. That's my question of the day. If you can you explain to me what you like about podcasts? Anywhere. DM, text, comments, wherever. I just want to understand more. I think from my perspective, if I had to be on the other side, I think what makes it attractive is the fact that you can do it pretty easily. I'm going to show you the mic I got. That mic cost $40. With $40 mic, $30 a month Descript, and that's the higher level plan. You can get the lower level plan. There's a free plan for up to 3 hours. You can literally have a podcast up $40. I literally show you $40. Of course, you need a computer. So that I don't know if I should add that cost. But you don't have to. This app, even that mic right there, you could do it with your phone. You don't have to do it with a professional mic. And this mic is definitely not professional, a $40 mic, right? So I could buy a $300 mic, I could buy a $5,000 mic, right? But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as much as consistency and talking about things people care about. So like right now, today, I was like, all right, I got to do something about podcasting, because there's a power in this that I don't fully understand, but I see it. It's like you clearly see the difference of how people react to that content. They're literally, people calling me I haven't spoken to in months, or people that are like, man, you switched it off on me. That was what I needed. I don't know what I said, but I'm glad I said it. But the idea, maybe you're right. Do you think it's that Joe Rogan deal? Do you think, because that's what Media Chop Up is saying, Joe Rogan put it on the map. Do you think people are seeing it as a revenue stream? That's primarily what's driving it? Because if that's true, then that's even better, because that's what I'm about, monetization. I don't know another thing that doesn't have any requirement that day one you put that up and you're making money. I don't really, literally, there's money in my account. I mean, it's not a lot. I can't even buy a Starbucks coffee yet. But it's money versus YouTube. I've been doing it for way longer, way harder, and I ain't got no money in there. So, and same with Instagram, Facebook. There's no money in no account for any of those. So I do see it as maybe people thinking maybe there is a way to make money with this. And it's very similar to YouTube early. You could have made a video and it went viral and you could have made $1,000 on YouTube like that. Same thing with a podcast, but way more. Like if you get the same amount of views on YouTube that you get on your podcast, you make way more money. About 15 times more money. That is a big deal. All right. The low to no cost startup, literally anyone can do it. Talk about what you love and you'll never run out of topics. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it is. The fact that also I think the lack of visual, I think the visual is very intimidating. It was for me, it still is. Every day I had to learn how to give myself haircuts because there will come points where I was like, I don't want to go on live today because I don't have a haircut. So, but early on in the pandemic, I was like, what am I going to do? The barbershops are closed. So what am I going to do? So I had to learn how to give myself haircuts. And I've been giving myself haircuts since. And it was a great skill set to learn, by the way. I highly suggest anybody learn that. But I didn't want that barrier that would say, all right, don't go live because you don't have a haircut. So I said, all right, I'm going to remove that one. I'm going to learn how to give myself haircuts. And many times I went on live with like a huge mess up over here that you couldn't see because I kept it away. But the basic idea of it all is you have to eliminate the barriers to you creating consistently. One major barrier is relying on anybody other than yourself. That's a big barrier. I had that barrier. I during the pandemic, I really got over it by saying, look, I'm just going to learn how to do all of this myself. All of it. And of course, I do understand I was in the world. I wasn't coming at it brand new. So I had a little bit of a head start. Not a little bit. I had a really good head start. So a lot of what you see, my promotion, I'm using After Effects. I'm really showing off my skills because I have them. And I'm like, if I have them, why not use them for myself? If I use them for other people, why not use them for myself, right? So I'm really going all in on treating myself like I treat my clients. That's something I didn't really do. Never, ever. I always treated clients better than myself. But I'm like, let me treat myself like a client. And now in mass ideation, Miguel Sanchez world is a client, right? So that's basically the way I look at it. And that's what I'm saying. We're a sponsor, but we're also a client. I'm not only the president, but I'm also the client. So what you said, all right. It's easier to do than YouTube. 10-minute video takes 2-hour record, maybe another 2 edits. No, it's 1,000% easier to do than YouTube. 1,000%. Like, it's not even close. So, yes. I laugh my own facts. I don't know what you were laughing at, but easier to flow and be natural when you're not distracted by setting up a camera. It's so true. In the beginning, I was making podcasts anytime. I would be like, at one point, I was on the beach in the Dominican Republic thinking about what I was doing with this property. And I said, you know what? I'm going to just talk about it on the podcast. And I just took my phone, spoke. You could hear the water in the background. But I was like, that was good content that I wouldn't have done if it was video. Because it was, first of all, it was nighttime. I was walking along the beach by myself, thinking about what I was going to do. And I decided to talk into my mic. And that was good content. That was another show that got me a lot of feedback. That wouldn't have been possible if I was like, oh, I got to do this on video and I'm walking. So I need another person to shoot while I talk. And I need a mic. All that stuff, barrier, never happens. Versus podcast, that's another reason why I said I'm going to do it every day. And I'm saying it to all of you so you can hold me to it. Because if I come up on a time where I'm like, uh-oh, I don't have anything to put out tomorrow, I'm going to have to create one right there. They don't all have to be an hour, too. I'm doing the entrepreneur hour, so my episodes can be an hour. But every now and then, I'll do it 5 minutes just off the dome, freestyle, you know, the way I'm just talking about something I'm thinking about, which was what I did with that one in the Dominican Republic. And it's like he was saying, you know, it's about just being free flowing and having a conversation. And kind of like what I've been able to learn how to do though with this video stuff is right now I'm looking into the lens and I see you. I see you watching, and I'm talking to you, right? I can like make that connection, and I feel like if you were sitting right here with me, we would be having the same conversation. Of course, it's only me talking, but that's pretty common when you talk to me. I talk a lot. But you got to do the same thing with audio, with the podcast. You got to think, all right, if you were having a phone conversation with someone, how would you be talking to them? How would you be explaining or just telling the story? Also, storytelling's huge. Storytelling's huge. I had one of my mentors. Oh, this is one of my proudest moments. One of my mentors was like, he reached out to me. He was like, I listened to your whole podcast. I never do that. You must be an amazing storyteller to keep me for a whole hour, because I never do that. And I was like, maybe I am. I don't know. Hopefully I'm learning. Let me see. Haircut things, facts. Yeah. Look, man, you got to remove every barrier. Another barrier I removed. Clothes. One of my things was, damn, I got to look a certain way every time. And then one of my mentors said, shows have wardrobes, right? Why don't you just wear the black shirt every time? So I literally have this black shirt and a few other ones in my book bag. And I'm wearing something. I just came from a consulting gig, and I just took it off and put on the black shirt, get on live. That's a barrier that now is not there, because sometimes I'm like, damn, I don't want to shoot that again. I wore that shirt last Tuesday. I don't want them to think I don't have clean clothes. That was a barrier. That was a barrier for me, right? So I said, remove it. I got the shirts. They're in there. I just use them for the hour. Clean them every once a week. Boom, put them back. Done. Barrier removed, right? So to me, when you're creating content, you got to figure out how to remove the barriers, but also create things that you're going to have fun talking about. So I'm having fun talking about this because it's part of my journey, right? Like, I've literally been trying to figure this out for a year. And now I'm getting there. I feel like I'm getting comfortable. But that was another thing. One of my friends was reaching out to me, and he's like, I got to get over my stage fright. And I was like, me too. He was like, yeah, right, you have stage fright. I'm like, yeah, I do. Right before I press record, I'm like, what if I do some dumb thing right now and 1 million people see it one day? But, I kind of get over that, but it's not gone. It's not gone. It gets better. It gets better. The same thing with public speaking. When I go public speak, right before, I'm like, what am I doing right now? What are you doing? Like, are you crazy? And then you get on the stage and it's like, oh, I got this. Don't worry about it. We good. But in the beginning, you're not really ever going to get over that. I don't know. Maybe. I think maybe eventually after a long time. But in the beginning, I don't really see. And by beginning, I mean first 5-10 years, you probably still. I hear celebrities still say it. I'm still scared to go up. I remember. Yeah, I won't go too deep into stuff. But you are going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So consistency, one of the biggest challenges I see is people want to start once they feel like everything's perfect. And if you look back at when I started, I specifically said, I'm not going to care. And you know what helped me? Seeing a major player do it too. And because it was COVID. Why was that? Because everybody's visual quality went down. Everybody's. Because everybody was like, all of a sudden had to be home. And they were like, well, I need to be on doing my thing. So I'm going to do it with my webcam from my camera on my computer. And headphones. Instead of needing to be a studio with lighting. So when I saw that, I said, this is the best time to get in, because nobody's really caring about that. And it might set the standard where it doesn't matter anymore. And now you see that. If you watch a lot of the Instagram lives, the quality's horrible. The streaming quality's bad, the audio's bad, but these things are getting millions of views. So people don't care as much as you think about how all this stuff looks. Of course, me, because I'm very visual, I've over time tried to make my stuff better. I got a better camera. I got a better setup to make sure my internet quality was good. I made a better surrounding screen to make sure my stuff looks good. I wanted my stuff to look good. And then now with the promos, I'm making my promos so they look really good. But that's me, and this is what I do though. My company is built to do that. So you don't have to feel like you have to be at that level. And I was not at that level when I started. In 1 year, and that's with a lot of resources built in to be able to do it. Now my stuff looks this quality, it sounds this quality, it's promoted at this quality, it's all these places. It took a long time. And a lot of stuff I recorded never made the light of day. I have a bunch of podcasts that I've spoken to. Many times I was driving and I thought of something and I was like, you know what? This is a good podcast. I put the record on, I talk, and then after I was like, I don't really like that. You hear the horn, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to use it. Even though some of it was really good, I just didn't want to use it. I think if I would have been doing that now, I would have let it fly. Because you get to this point, I tell everybody this. You get to this point where you stop caring. You stop caring, right? So you need to run to that point. And the way you run to that point is by doing. You're going to keep doing, caring. Then you're going to get to this point where you're like, I don't care. And what happened with me was how I recognized that point was I was doing a lot of content and not putting stuff out. I was scared to put it out. And then one day I created this video and I hated it. But I said, you know what, Mike? Put it out. Stop playing around. I put it out and I got crazy good feedback. People were reaching out like, oh man, what you said right there was crazy. And I was like, I wasn't even going to put that out. So then I was like, you know what? You're your worst enemy. You're stopping yourself. So I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to just go. And once I started just not caring, it put me at a different level because then I could do it more often. Because the more often you do it, the more results you're going to get. That's just the truth of it all. It's compounding interest. The more you put in, the more the back end benefits. So like, let's say I'm doing once a week. Go 50 weeks in a year. That first episode gets 10 views. Second episode gets 10 views. But then the first episode gets some more views off that 10 views. Then it keeps happening. But now think about doing it every day. Like I'm doing 7 days a week now with the podcast. Think about how I already see the numbers growing crazy. And I've done it like 6 days in a row, 5 or 6 days in a row. And I see the benefits. All the numbers are growing. If I would have been doing that once a week, that spacing, that timing would have been longer to see those numbers grow. But the more I'm brute forcing it, right? I'm putting out. I know most people are not going to listen to every single podcast. There's no way. Not even my father is going to listen to every single podcast, right? But eventually, all that production is beneficial to you as an individual. Nobody's going to listen to everything you put out. Nobody's going to watch every video you put out. But people will watch more and more. But you look at people like a Gary Vee, who he makes what I'm doing look like nothing. Get a logo t-shirt. See, I have been thinking about doing stuff like that. Like I had the Innovate Every Day one, but I said let me not be too salesy with it, because I want to have the benefit of having flexibility. And there's going to be one show that I have to do where I might have to be suited up. You'll hear about that one soon. I'm going tomorrow to see how we do it. And that one's going to be crazy. So what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. The consistency. The consistency is so key, because the more you're consistent, the more you benefit everywhere. And this is why I tell you, think about how you can make money outside of the ad revenue and stuff like that. So let's say you're a trainer. Talk about personal training, but then they know you're a trainer, right? And they'll want to hire you as a trainer. More people see you, more people engage with you. I already see everywhere growing because I have on the description, I have the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, I have everything. So I already see people following me and I'm sure it's because I'm putting this stuff everywhere every day now versus a post here, a post there. So with all of this, the more you do it, the more you benefit. Of course, not everybody could do every day. I did say my whole situation is built to help me do this. I have set up a scenario where I can work, I can do other things and still do this. This whole setup fits in my book bag. I could get stuck somewhere for a client and still do my show. Right? So, but that's again me planning to remove all barriers. I said, and if you look, this equipment, you can't see it, I gotta figure out how to take a picture of it, but all this equipment was based on convenience to move around with. The size of the camera, the size of the lens, the size of the laptop, the size of the mic. I bought another mic that had the boom, and it was good. It was nice. It stayed here. You couldn't even see it. But traveling with it was a nightmare. So I said, I got to change it. I need a mic that could fit in my book bag because I need to be able to be anywhere with it and be able to rock. So this is going to be a big test, is when I go to the Dominican Republic. I'm going to bring my stuff and make sure, but the internet is so choppy there that I don't know how that's going to work. We're going to test it though. And like I said, my dad's going to be with me, so I'm definitely going to try to make a show where he's my guest. So I'm really excited to do that. But again, for my dad, same thing I would tell you. How can you be consistent? How can you not only make one episode and then stop, make 5 episodes and then stop? You got to have a topic or a content matrix. This is something I built, and I could actually show you maybe. Let me show you. I'm going to show you my content matrix. Oops. Glad you didn't see that. That was a client file. Yeah, there you go. All right, content matrix. All right, can you see my screen? All right. So when you see content matrix, this is I had a sticky board, and I was putting on things around everything I want to talk about, everything I want to educate the public on, right? Anybody watching my content, I want them to understand this is the greatest opportunity in our lifetime. Right now, I don't even see after this there being this is like being in the Great Depression with $1 million in your pocket. Because, of course, you don't got $1 million in your pocket, but all this stuff is available now. And there's never been an easier way to talk to millions of people for free than right now. So right now, if you have anything you're trying to do and you just do this, you have the opportunity to get in front of more people than ever in the history of the world. Even if you had a storefront, everybody's home, everybody's on these social media platforms, very little bit of people are creating content. Very little people are creating YouTube, Facebook. Way less are creating podcasts. And for me, podcast is the best consumption medium right now. I could literally be playing on my son's PlayStation, listening to a podcast. I could be driving, listening to a podcast. I could be taking a shower, podcast volume on, right? I could be anywhere. I could be cleaning the house, podcast going. You could have your YouTube up. Most people, and here's the big thing I see. Most people are watching YouTube like they listen to podcasts. They're not even watching the screen. They just have it up and doing other things and listening. And that's a major miss by YouTube. And I think I made a video about this a long time ago. If I was YouTube, I would make all my content also podcast. If they would have did that, they would have knocked everybody out the box because they got so much content. Of course, it's visual, but you still will be willing to listen to it. So all this to say, if you're starting today, what you got to think about is what's a topic you could talk about often. So for me, this is all helping me to create different topics. I talk about my history here, building MI, anything around MI that I thought, MI meaning mass ideation, that I thought I wish I would have known. That's content I could create. Back to the Bronx, for me, is me talking about things that when I used to think about, when I first came back to the Bronx, how I wish the scenario was for everybody around me. So I started thinking about, okay, how can I help people do this? So I created the nonprofit because of that. But it helps me by putting this stuff down like this. It helps me to think, right? And then a friend of mine helped me put another one together. I gotta look for it. It's hard to find right now. But that's one content matrix. Another one that I use sometimes is income streams. So sometimes I look at this and I say, all right, what are the income streams I care about, I want to get more understanding of? And I go and I research them and I dip my toe into them, and then I'm like, all right, I just learned something, let me talk about it. And let me draw more people in that are interested in that revenue stream so they could teach me and I could teach them. So then I made the Facebook group, and that Facebook group is helping me with stocks and real estate and different ones. Consulting, right now I'm doing consulting stuff. I did consulting as mass ideation for a long time, but now I'm doing it a little bit more as me. And this is all learning. Stocks, equity crowdfunding. I had a good conversation this weekend about equity crowdfunding, and you're going to hear a lot more about that soon. Courses. Somebody reached out to me this weekend too. There's another great, and thank you, you know you are. Like, what you're doing, you can charge for it right now. Start charging for it. They told me this. I'm like, serious? They're like, yeah. I think what you're doing right now, you're selling yourself short by not charging people. And I was like, but I don't even really know what to charge for. They were like, look, you just motivated me, and I'm paying a lot of money for courses, different courses, and they're doing what you're doing. You could be making money doing that. And I was like, all right, you know what? You're right. This podcast thing, it's really, a lot of people will look like they're interested. I know how to do it. Not just podcast though. I think I'm going to make a content creation course, not just podcast, because podcast is one thing. If you look, I'm on video, audio, all this stuff is together. It's all happening at the same time. And I could teach people how to do this. It's work. So I wouldn't want to have to teach each person individually. It would cost more money that way instead of putting out a course. So I've been thinking about it, especially this weekend after that person did that. And I truly appreciate it. And I owe you an email, I know. But that's another revenue stream around the podcast, right? Imagine I'm making the podcast and I'm selling a course that costs $500. And that person was telling me they're paying for a course $3,000, right? But imagine selling a course for $500, and every podcast episode you sell one. And now you're doing it 365 days a year. You want to do that math? It's pretty good. Again, that's outside of advertising, and that's what all these people do. When you start getting into this understanding, all these people are creating content to draw you to the sale. On the radio, the sale is the advertising only. But those people don't have to do that because the radio station built the advertising revenue for them. But they have to read the ads, right? They are the brand. And you have to do that with podcasts. And it's a little difficult. So that was one thing I was talking to somebody this weekend, yesterday I think, one of my boys from high school actually, who was motivated to do it. He was like, all right, I'm doing it right now. He hit me up like 11 o'clock at night yesterday, like, I'm doing it right now. And I was like, all right. So I'm like, what you got to do is read the audio of an ad, an ad for Anchor. And he was like, wait, what do you mean? I was like, listen to mine. The first minute you'll hear my ad. And you have to do that. You have to do something like that. And that's what podcasting does. That's the ad. And that's what's beautiful about podcasting. Podcasting is all about your personal brand. And the advertisers know that. So they don't want to just give you an ad read by somebody else. They want you to read it because they know whoever's listening is listening for you. So even with my dad, my real hope is my dad doesn't make the podcast just about teeth. He makes it about his life. Because my dad knows how to fix cars, carpentry, fix teeth. He's been an entrepreneur. He's lived in Harlem through the 50s, 60s. His life is pretty interesting, but I only know some of the stories. I'm sure he has stories that I want to be able to listen to when he passes on, right? Same with me. I'm hoping all this content, the real audience I'm hoping this content is for is my kids, right? Everybody who gets it before that, more power to you, and I'm glad that I'm helping in some way. But I want my kids to hear this content. And then I'm gonna make another podcast around just mass ideation and the stuff that does, right? Because one of the biggest things I do believe is every company needs to think of themselves as a media company now. You can't just give a service and not have a value that you give to people first before they buy your service. I think that ship has sailed, and the people that do it right and give value, they're going to get all the business. They're going to create stuff like this, give value, and then by the time you want to pay for something and they do it, you're going to feel like, I might as well give it to them. They've been helping me this whole time. I got to spend money somewhere. Might as well spend it with them. And I'm already seeing that benefit. And like I said, hasn't even been that long, right? So at the end of the day, what you got to really start understanding is what I think the future is holding is there's only two things that are important: brand and technology. So this is my soapbox. Either you are a brand people know and want to work with, or you have a technology that they can't do without you. Those are the two things that are going to win. And if you look right now, what are we seeing? What are the biggest companies? Brand and technology. Show me the company that's the biggest in the world that can't be taken out like that unless they have a big brand or have a big technology that's really hard to reproduce. So how do you, so if you're a regular person, the technology's out the way, like it's hard. A person like me, I'm even thinking, all right, how can I get in this technology game and make something that they have to use with me? So I've been working on that, but of course that's going to take me years. But a brand is the one you have control over. You could start creating right now, today. And over time, it's going to take time. Brands are not built in a day. Coco Chanel, when she first started Chanel, nobody knew who she was. Now she's long dead, and people are still wearing Chanel. And the only reason I know that is because I went through the process where I was trained through the brand because I was working with them, because I was publicly speaking one day, growing my personal brand, and somebody from Chanel was in the audience. They walked up to me after and said, I love what you said. I want you to work with Chanel. That's brand. And I had a technology I was talking about that was very hard for other people to reproduce, augmented reality. So, and I had a good lead on it where it was really difficult for them to find somebody that knew it more than me. So those two things, I really believe if you're not working on a technology that other people are it's going to be very hard for them to copy, you have to focus on brand. And it's the easiest one to focus on, to be honest. All you have to do is be you. You are you. It's not hard. Just you got to be willing to be okay with yourself on camera, hearing your voice. Trust me, I hate my voice. I hate my face. But I'm on here talking and making my brand bigger, and it's helping me. It's helping my businesses. It's helping my career goals. So I really hope the power of podcasting, you guys take advantage of it, because of course it's not going to be forever. But I do believe we went from TV to radio to internet. I think we're going to podcast. I think podcast is the next thing. Audio information, whenever you want it, versus radio, you had to be listening at that specific time or you weren't going to hear it. I'm taking advantage of both in a way. Right now you're live. If you're live, you can ask questions. If you're not live, you can listen whenever you want. So, all right, Khalid, you got to partner with those auto compare guys. I hear they have a sick technology. 1,000%. My boy Khalid, we're going to figure out how we could do that, because I love that technology. Let's go. Let's figure it out. Hit me up. So that's another thing, right? Like, because I'm live, Khalid, who came on, you're going to see that partnership. And I'm going to reference this timestamp in this episode of when we took that partnership off. So That's another reason. That's another big thing. I'm gonna leave it here. People always ask me, why do it live? Even my son, this is hilarious. The other day, my son's like, can you give me the password to the computer in the house? And I'm like, I'm on a show. He's like, yeah, but there's nobody on right now, so just give me the password. And I'm like, first of all, there's a million people watching. You just don't see it. They're going to be watching over time. But right now, I can't give you the password to the house computer in front of a million people. The funny thing is that he didn't understand was he was just on YouTube. This is everywhere. Like right now, if I look, I got one person on Instagram, one person on Twitch, 5 people on YouTube, right? None on Facebook. But Facebook usually has a bunch too. So even if you're just on one platform, that's not what's going to happen. Then this stuff stays forever, right? So what you benefit from by going live is that extra layer of viewership and interaction. So I know a lot of people don't want to go live. A lot of people don't want to go live because they're like, oh, it's too much pressure. What you got to understand, though, is going live puts, first of all, it lets everybody on every platform know that you're live. I know that can get annoying, but people know. And if they care, they'll come, right? That doesn't happen if you just post a video. Second, it allows engagement. So like right now, I'm talking to multiple people, different platforms through live, right? I couldn't do that if I wasn't live. Then all these platforms, because they want you to do more live, they give preferential treatment to live videos. So they'll show them more often. On top of the fact that when they're live, they promote them for you. Because that's what they want. It's in their benefit for you to be having audience there live, right? You bringing audience to their platform often benefits them, so they're going to benefit you for doing it. So that's where I tell people, try live. I'm telling you, live is going to benefit you if you can get used to it, if you can get over that hump of feeling the pressure of the situation, which is, I'm not going to lie, there's pressure. Sometimes something happens outside and I'm like, oh man, I hope they didn't hear that. Or whatever it is, I have pressure with the live, but I'm getting better at it. And I'm benefiting everywhere from having it. I'm benefiting on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all that. They all get pushed up because they're live. If you just post a video, you don't get that same benefit. So I tell you, I think that's how I'm going to end it, being live. And as opposed to everywhere else, podcasts I can't do live, right? They are coming up with platforms that will do live podcasting, and we'll see how that goes. I do like the fact that podcasts, you can listen whenever you want. And I like the fact that you can continue listening to it, right? I could be driving for a half hour, turn off my car, get back in my car, keep going, right? That's not the same in a radio station, right? You got to stay there waiting because that person is not going to be there when you come back. That's why I really like that about podcasting. Live on video, I think is different. But we'll see. We'll see how all this stuff goes. I really think, thank you for anybody who watched, anybody who's interested in creating a podcast. I think you should try it. Definitely reach out. I want to hear more. The more I hear, the more I get motivated to keep doing this. But I'm going to do it anyway, but I like the motivation and I like helping. I think I'm helping people do it. So I wanted to keep learning. I want to keep hearing the questions you have because that'll help me build my course. Right? If I keep hearing these questions, I'm like, all right, make sure you answer that because everybody's going to ask that. So that's where I'm at, and I'm really happy with everything. So again, thank you for watching the globally televised Entrepreneur Hour and listening to the globally podcasted Entrepreneur Hour. And again, I thank everybody who commented, everybody who reached out this weekend, everybody who's going to reach out in the future, anybody who watches this at any point in history. Thank you for coming and watching hour of me talk my ish. And please like this video, share with anybody you think may want help creating a podcast. And again, how we end the show every day, innovate every day. And I hope you innovate by creating a podcast. Thank you.